All right, I'm just going to let it rip because otherwise me and Nathan are going to sit here for another 40 minutes talking about not the topic.
He said let it rip. Excuse you.
So, today we're talking about mono blue. Specifically, towards Commander because that's what we play.
Yep.
Mono blue is great. I love blue.
Yeah.
You have some struggles.
Yeah.
But you have struggles in every color. It's blue. Most you just know it's card draw, counter spells, some tempo plays with like unsummon effects, and yeah,
Flying based creatures,
yada yada. In Commander, you kind of play on the weird axis of like, are you an asshole in the whole like angle shooting thing of like trying to get other people to deal with threats so that way you don't run out of answers yourself? You kind of fall into that. But it's also just kind of it's fun because you do have counter spells, and if you can hopefully manage the table well enough, you can just end up preventing people from winning long enough, hopefully, for you to win yourself.
Yeah. Blue is one of my favorite colors, personally. It's in most of my decks. Not all of but most.
You just can't beat card draw in blue. And it's one of those things where every other color we've talked about, because we've covered everything at this point.
Yeah.
This will be the last time we talk about a specific color. We might start talking about color pairs going into the future. We'll probably run through everything. Everything from the mono colors we're finishing up, and we'll cap it off on 5 colors. 5 color, we'll talk about it and be like, oh yeah, you have everything. Figure it out.
Yes.
The hardest part about playing a 5 color deck is finding the money for your mana base. But so yeah, we're talking about blue. Card draw is the best. Like, you hit the nail on the head. It's why blue-green is such a friendly color to get into or card color combination to get into Magic.
Yeah.
Because playing blue-green, as long as you have kind of a grasp on the game, you'll be ahead on mana and you'll be ahead on cards the entire game. So you get around blue's problem of like not being able to cast things because you're out of mana by playing green. Mm-hmm. So you're just able to cast more things, and then you get around the card or not having enough cards problem by if you play cards like Blue Sun Zenith.
Yep.
Big X spells for your huge tracks of mana.
Yeah.
Specifically Blue Sun because it shuffles back in, so you'll be able to cast it multiple times per game.
Yeah.
You'll never run out of cards, and you're just in green, so you're finding your big dumb idiots to win. They'll slam onto the table and win the game.
That's why Teamer's my favorite color, because you throw in some red, make them stronger.
Give them haste.
Yes, just give them haste.
So, I don't know if you have anything else to add to kind of an opener about just kind of general themes of blue, but we could start talking about.
I think you pretty much nailed it.
So, just to kind of keep a little bit of structure, more than I normally do, I wrote some notes today. That generally doesn't happen. But just to get it out of the way, because I'm going to keep talking about it if I don't. Blue, you have the best card draw in the game. There's no other color in the game that compares, period. The amount of cards that you have access to that just say draw cards, the amount of 1 mana cards that you can play at instant speed that say draw extra cards, opt, brainstorm, consider, I'm blanking. But then I know there's, ponder, preordain, serum visions. If you want to get a little hairy, you could go into the 2 mana realm of I think Chart of Course might be a sorcery, and you have to discard a card unless you've attacked, but who cares? Omen of the Sea, when it was spoiled, I understood that it was not competitive enough. Omen of the Sea is instant speed ponder or instant speed preordain. Yeah, it's instant speed preordain on an enchantment for 2 mana instead of 1, but you can sacrifice it at a later time for 2 colorless mana and scry 2.
Okay.
So sacrifice, do it at the end of your opponent's turn because you're playing blue and so you have a ton of open mana.
Yeah.
Do it in your upkeep when you get your mana untapped. Do it whenever.
Treasure Cruise is up there.
Yep, Treasure Cruise, Dig Through Time as well.
Dig Through Time.
But then you end up running into you have enchantments like Rhystic Study that don't go anywhere. Mystic Remora. Those are the 2 cards that I have here, quite literally. Yeah. Mystic Remora and Rhystic Study. As just pillars of blue card draw. Now, am I going to tell you everyone should go out and buy a Rhystic Study or Mystic Remora? Mystic Remora, I don't know the price on right now, but whenever I look at Rhystic Study when I make a blue deck and I'm like, ooh, $50 for a common.
Yeah.
I'm okay, Wizards, give me a reprint.
Honestly.
Yeah,
more Commander Legend sets.
Yep. You could make an argument for like if anything on the secondary market is over $50, it's probably too expensive, right? Like Wizards just print more. I get it. There's a ton of money involved, but you don't see any of it, so you like who cares?
I think it's like they just like the secondary market that gets more other players involved in the collecting aspect of it.
But it boggles my mind that Wizards of the Coast, like they have quite you see a card over $50, right? You know they could really print money, right? From dumb Magic players being like, if I just open enough packs, right? If you make a set and you put 10 chase mythics in it and 10 fucking mythics that blow, that set is going to sell like hotcakes. Holy shit. If you start splitting and I don't mean the like standard sets, because standard sets you don't want to reprint a ton, but in standard specialty sets, start just jamming in some chase mythic or chase cards. Period. Drop the price, make the game more accessible, and print money. They just would print money. And
you can always come out with sets with the crazy expensive cards that. I mean, I don't know if they know how much a card's going to hit on the secondary market, because I'm not sure if they expected, Rhystic Study to even get that high. Right?
You could look at a card like Tarmogoyf, where Tarmogoyf, as far as I was concerned, for like a decade, Tarmogoyf slowly crept from like a $10 to $100 card. Right, Tarmogoyf is foil Tarmogoyf is one of the only cards that I know of that's not on the reserve list to reach over $1,000.
Wow.
And then they just reprinted it like 4 times in a row, and then the card price dropped to like $20. And then of course now Tarmogoyf is a bad card. It got pushed out of the format. You could probably, I want to say because I saw it on Reddit recently, some guy talking about like, I finally bought my 4 Tarmogoyfs that I've been waiting for. It's like, yeah, I get that the card blows now, but I'm like, when I was 15 getting into Magic, this was the card. This was the card. I just like, I did it to do it.
Yeah. And that's like another reason, just like you said, reprint the card. Even if it's not going to be good and it gets pushed out of the format, it's like, doesn't matter. People are still going to buy it just to own it. Especially those collectors.
So yeah, just like, all right, we're talking about blue here.
We are.
But holy crap. It's like, Wizards of the Coast, understand, you have a money printing machine in the form of Magic the Gathering. If you just didn't so I look at last little side tangent. I look at like Eternal Masters, I want to say.
Ooh.
Eternal Masters was, as far as I'm concerned, like a notoriously bad set in terms of mythics and rares. Because I want to say like the chase cards in it were like reprints of Kamigawa dragons that don't see play anywhere.
Because they care about like equipments, right? Or is it? Like
Then I want to say Mana Drain was in it.
Oh, okay.
Mana Drain at the time, even now, it's like a $60 or whatever dollar card. So that's like the card. There might have been a sword or something. There were like 2 cards that you wanted, and then like 20 cards that you didn't care about.
Just buy them as singles at that point.
Yeah, exactly. You're never gonna pull them. You could buy,
unless you really wanted that box.
Yeah, unless you're gonna do like an event, like a sealed event.
Yeah.
And then
Mono blues.
Mono blue. Sorry, Ristic Study got me acting up.
Man, so expensive. So
the counter spells, control, right? That's my next topic of focus.
Yeah, it's I for so long put off adding just counterspell in the decks that I own because there are just so many different counterspells out there that are great situationally, but you're waiting on those situations, which is the drawback for them.
I got that in there. I got that in here too. Continue.
I just didn't realize how big of a problem some of those situational counterspells can be compared to just like the classic counterspell. And it's just like, if you can run it, just run it, because anything below that's going to be more valid knowing that counterspell is going to be in the deck. And it's like 25 cents to $1.
Yeah.
It's just get it. Grab some like couch change.
Actually, just look through your couch drawer. If you have, like us up in the pantry, we keep just a jar of like coins because I hate carrying coins.
Yeah.
So we just have a jar, like bust into your piggy bank, go down to your local game store and throw 50 cents at the counter and be like, hey, can you get me a counter spell? And I'm sure they have one.
Yeah.
But yeah, control and disruption specifically with spells like a counter spell and force of will, right? Force of Will being a much pricier option, but it's still just blanket counter spells that have the ability to hose entire things, right? Narrow counter spells can be a problem. We can talk about that a little later. I have that in here a little later when I start talking about the negatives of blue. But being able to control the flow of the game and to prevent powerful enter the battlefield effects from even happening, or board wipes from even happening, right? You're head on board, someone rips not a Supreme Verdict, don't worry. Actually, Supreme Verdict, one of the very narrow instances of being able to interact with it, Aether Gust targets a red or green permanent.
And Supreme Verdict can't be countered.
No, but there's Memory Lapse. Memory Lapse is actually the better. You take a spell on the stack and put it on top of your opponent's library.
Oh my god!
You put it on top, or they put it. Yeah. So you get another turn.
It's a really nice card.
Yeah, Memory Lapse is a wonderful card. I want to say Aether Gust only targets red or green spells, so it's a little rougher. But you can hit those Blasphemous Axe and whatnot. You can hit a Crater Hoof, whatnot. And it doesn't, but the problem being, it doesn't get rid of it. It just, it puts it off.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's, blue counterspells are important. It's important to not get in your own head about counterspells. Because we were talking about a little bit earlier that I'll just cover briefly. You can get in your own head about when to counter things, and unless it's something like a Spell Pierce where you know later in the game it'll lose value, or it's I can't remember the specific. It's a 1 blue counterspell that counters any creature 2 CMC or less. I only know about it. It came out in the Lord of the Rings set, and I only know about it because Psychic Frog kicked off in Legacy, and so I saw, just watching videos, I saw someone try to play like 3 Psychic Frogs.
Oh.
One of them got hit by like a Force of Will, and then 2 of them got hit by this 1 mana blue counterspell.
Dang.
With only a very narrow targeting window. So unless your spell has very narrow targeting window, like if you have counterspell, I would hold on to counterspell until your opponent's like trying to win the game.
Yeah.
Right? There's no use in ripping, even on like a Soul Ring. I know Soul Ring, they ran so hard. Deal with the threat rather than the thing that's just like Soul Ring after a few turns, mid to late game, means absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Right? Once we're past the point of everyone having 10 mana, it's like, everyone's casting multiple spells per turn and your Soul Ring looks real nice.
Yeah. There's even like just like some blue spells that just like get rid of some stuff.
Yeah.
Like I like all the. I'm not sure how big of a fan you are of these spells. I haven't seen too many commanders care about this effect, but it's another way to play control in blue. Instead of just countering stuff, you can like freeze the board up.
Yeah.
With stun.
Yeah.
Stun effects. Freeze a thing in place. Yeah. Frogify a thing. Lose all their abilities.
Yeah.
Or lock up the board. I forget. There's some stuff where it's like on Arena, I remember like the chain effect locks them up, makes them all tap permanently for like a couple turns. Stun counters.
Yeah.
There's plenty of other ways outside of counter spells, depending on your play style, that you can be running these things.
Well, yeah, this is my next point. Is tempo and board manipulation being things like Cyclonic Rift, unsummon effects, right? Tempo is big in blue. The way blue deals with threats is by making the opponent have to cast it again, right? Nothing worse than you spend 8 mana on your big green threat, and you're trying to develop your board for next turn, and then right before you pass the turn, the blue player is like, hey, all right, put that back in your hand. You're gonna have to do that one again.
Yeah.
So you just wasted a turn, right?
Yeah.
You get even bigger effects in things like Cyclonic Rift. I want to say like Whelming Wave is a card, but I can't think of any too many off the top of my head because I'm not digging for them. And then the other half of it is, I have my own problems with Propaganda, but Propaganda is still a tempo play.
Yeah.
Right? You playing against a mono red aggro deck, and
tokens decks.
Even like a red-green deck that's trying to get big dumb idiots out.
Oh yeah.
Right. You play Propaganda. It's going to take your opponent a while to get. It's going to take them more time. They have to determine at the beginning of every turn, like, do I need to advance my board, or
attack?
Do I need to attack? I will say Propaganda gets worse against bad decks. Because in a bad deck, you're running out of things to do a lot of the time. So once you're in the late game, your opponent only has one spell. It's a dog shit spell. They're not going to cast it. It doesn't matter that you have Propaganda. They're fully willing to spend all of their mana attacking you.
Yeah.
But in better decks where you're trying to play things consistently, or you're trying to you can keep a full stack of hand or a full stack of cards, it's really hard to try and determine whether or not you want to advance your board state or you need to kill your opponent.
Yeah. And hopefully, if you're the blue player and you have Propaganda, you can just keep filling your hand with stuff that hopefully can just like control that player a little bit more, so you have the win card in your hand, or the board state aligns with your plan.
And then I want to, like, the last thing is, like, you're playing blue, you have access to combo pieces.
Yeah. Curiosity with the Niv Mizzet combo.
Yeah.
Man, it's getting harder to not just run it, because it's the card has been physically passed around me, Adam.
Yeah.
The card had
do you want it?
The hands have been interacted, and I'm just like, I could take that right there. They would be okay with it.
Yeah.
But I don't want like the deck to be at like a power level 5 with an infinite combo.
Yeah.
That now I do nothing all game.
And then I just rip. Yeah. Curiosity.
For that card.
I get it.
Yeah. Would not be a fun play.
And then what is it? Blue, as far as I'm like, what is it? As far as I know, I haven't looked into it, but like green, easy, infinite mana, you can do it. Red, easy, or red, not so easy. As far as I know, red can't generate infinite mana without like using artifacts.
Maybe infinite treasures with dual caster mage,
something like that. Yeah. Or some dockside extortionist line. What is it? White. Again, same thing. Like, you need a Grim Monolith and Rings of Bright Earth to generate infinite colorless mana.
And even that's just like you're playing probably stacks anyway, so you're just slowing everyone else down.
What is it? Mono black.
Oh yeah.
There's probably some sack chain that you can generate infinite mana with. But just so you know, blue has the same effect. Right, blue can generate infinite mana. Deadeye Navigator, as far as I know, has like been pushed out of the format because it's just a little slower. But you're playing mono blue, you don't have access to everything. And then there's some Drake or whatever that's like 5 mana. When it enters the battlefield, you untap 5 lands. You play that. You play Deadeye Navigator. Deadeye Navigator says pay 2 mana, blink the soul-bound creature, right? So tap 5 lands, pay 2 mana, blink your Drake, untap 5 lands, tap 5 lands, blink your Drake. Right? It's a possibility to generate hordes and hordes of mana, and then hopefully you have one of those big blue X spells, and you just go you draw your entire deck and then play Thassa's Oracle and win the game, right?
Man, what was it? And if you're gonna be trying to pull off infinite mana in blue, especially, like you know you're gonna have the gas in blue. If you're just playing mono blue and you get the infinite mana, you also have the card draw to deal with the infinite mana. You can infinitely draw. You have to be careful with how much you're drawing, obviously, but you have the backup support in the color to do what you need to do.
Well, yeah, because what is it? These big X spells, right? You're playing blue, and if you have infinite mana in blue, you have access to all of your counter spells at all times, and then hopefully they don't have more than the amount of counter spells you could have in your entire deck.
Yeah.
Among 3 other players, and then you have 3 avenues of winning the game in terms of Jace Wielder Mysteries, which also has a few libraries empty you in the game. Thassa's Oracle being the one that I already talked about, and then Laboratory Maniac, take it way back.
Yeah. What is it? And I think we said somewhere along the line during this podcast that we were talking about blue doesn't really have big dumb idiots, or was that the conversation outside the podcast? Because I think they have serpents, so it's like those get pretty big.
Even if they, so I guess it's probably the what's it called? Just the idea, like we might have talked about it. Every color has big dumb idiots. At this point, if you're telling me you can't find a big dumb idiot that's really good to cram in your deck, you're just wrong.
Green, obviously. Black has demons.
You don't even need to associate creature types. Just go on Scryfall, type in 8 power, type in trample. You'll find big dumb idiots in every card color combination.
Especially, you get higher up in mana.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, yeah, you just...
Because because there's giants in every color, right? There's at least a giant somewhere for you.
Yeah. There's something in every color that you can play that can help you close out the game. Now, I will say green is probably the most conducive to this strategy because they have probably they've had critical mass in terms of cards that overrun, right? Yeah. In other colors, you have to look for another form of evasion. Blue, and you end up with flying
and unblockable.
Unblockable, flat out. This card is unblockable.
Yeah.
White has flying too.
Yeah.
Black has menace, so maybe not as good. Menace and death touch. Red,
haste,
menace as well. Flying. First strike, double strike.
Flying a little bit. Dragons is what I'm getting into.
So every card color has big dumb idiots that you can use the infinite mana that you generate. Like don't. Yeah.
Everybody knows green for that.
Yep. And I wouldn't even, because people would say like, oh, it's breaking the color pie. I wouldn't even say it's breaking the color pie. Like the idea that green's whole thing is like having big dumb idiots is kind of meh. Like
it's just the easiest path to do it.
Green's thing is having more mana than everyone else. That's what green's thing is.
Yeah, because I don't. 9 times out of 10, you see someone going off with the infinite mana, they're gonna have green in it.
Yeah.
I just. It'd be very interesting to see somebody do that in a mono red deck. Yeah. I'm kind of curious.
It would have to do with some form of artifact, or I know you can do it.
Yeah.
Because you can do it in every color. It's probably the amount it's probably not a 2-card infinite combo, other than, like I said, Rings of Brighthearth and Grim Monolith. I don't know if you know this. Grim Monolith says, what is it? you tap it for 3, and you can untap it for 3. Rings of Bright Hearth says whenever you activate an ability, you can pay 2 mana and double it.
Ooh.
There's no tap effect on that. So what you do is you tap Grim Monolith for 3, then you use the 3 to untap it, and so you need 2 extra mana. You trigger Rings of Bright Hearth, so then you put 2 untapped triggers on the stack of Grim Monolith. Then you tap it for 3 again with the second untap trigger on the stack, so before it's untapped. Then you use that. Then you untap it, then you tap it again. So you've generated 6 mana, and you can do that infinitely now.
Yeah.
Right? Because every time you generate excess mana, every time you generate 1 mana from then on, right? Because it takes 5 to put 2 untapped triggers on the stack, and every time you generate 6 mana.
Oh yeah.
So you go up 1 mana every time after that. And then I want to say you can't do it with Basalt Monolith, because Basalt Monolith takes like 4 to untap or whatever. So yeah.
Mono blue, really good. Don't run Urza. No.
Well, what is it? We still have bad things, right? We could cover the aspects.
For sure. There's a ton of bad things to blue as well as great things.
Starting off with the fucking one right in your face. Limited access to permanent removal.
Yeah.
Right? You said Frogify. I'll say Pongify.
Yeah.
Rapid hybridization is another one. I like think
Freeze in place. Another one.
Once things hit the battlefield, you're going to struggle to get it off the battlefield. Which leads into the next problem of your reliance on counter magic.
Yep.
Right? We talked about when we were talking about counter spells are great if you have the right counter spell.
Yeah.
Right? And if you leave enough mana open, right?
Yeah. Because like a lot, especially with those like crappier ones, I'm just gonna say like they're just crappier with counterspell.
There are a lot of bad counterspells out there.
Because sometimes it's just like, yeah, you can counter it, then they can pay to get around it, and then it's like you might have. I think there's one where it's like they can pay it, and then you can pay it on top of that if you want to counter the count. It's like it's so stupid. It's like, okay, now I need to leave 6 mana up just to counter one card that they could just play a different version of, probably in that deck for a different effect.
And so, you run the risk of, I would say always, use your more narrow counter spells first.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
Just to try and triage the situation. Use your narrow counter spells as soon as you can, right? Not as soon as you can. If you need something countered, try to hold back your counter spell and use your dispel or whatever.
Because, like, worst case, they're just using more resources to, like, resolve the spell, right? And then it's like, you still know you have something that can get rid of, like, the big boy thing that you really needed. And you can always, like, I didn't know this, brainstorm into a counterspell.
Yeah.
Kind of crazy.
Yep. Yeah, draw into a counterspell and counter the thing. What is it? It's less of a problem in Commander, but hyper aggressive strategies, right? In more narrow form, right? They just get under you, right? You take some time to set up. So blue, you have to realize your resource is a life total, or your life total is a resource. I would say almost more than like a player playing black, right? Right. Playing black, it's like a race to the bottom. Like, how much life can I spend to gain an advantage? In blue, it's, does this hit matter? Can I take this hit?
Or do I need to block something?
Yeah. Or do I need to try and, does unsummon matter right now, or could I save my unsummon for when they get more things out and play? Then I'm just kind of racing through these at this point, not sticking too much on them. Like, there's the social aspect of playing blue. We talked about you have bad counter spells, right?
Yeah.
You have narrow counter spells. But the idea that you sat down at the table registering mono blue, it's like you have 4 cards in hand and 4 open mana. Every single spell in your hand is a 1 mana counter spell that says go fuck yourself, or go fuck me specifically. You just have you're wrapped up in the idea of like you're the fun police.
Yeah. And think about how many you actually need.
Yeah.
Like before you're just making your deck worse on yourself at that. Because like I'm at the point where it's like Niv Mizzet has like 15 counter spells, I think, maybe even more. I need to check.
Yeah.
And because like I swear, out of the 7 cards in my hand, I can almost guarantee 2 slots are going to be counter spells, and that's a problem.
At least in your opener, right?
Yeah, at least in my opener, and I know I'm going to draw into one in that game, maybe even more.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I can counter a thing, but it's like, how badly do I need to counter it? I probably should just get more cantrips.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a balance. For me, I like to play more cantrips than counter magic, but it's a balancing act.
There's also some thought to spell recursion. I want to say there's blue spells that say put spells from your graveyard back in your hand.
Yeah, like a lot of shuffle your graveyard into your library and then, do whatever. Even Urza is like, just shuffle your library, I think, or then you can like reveal the top card, put it in exile, you may cast it for free. So
you're talking about Urza Lord High Artificer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great card. I'm running Octavia the Living Thesis. I took like the fairy tribal precon from Eldraine, and I was like, it's mid, and it's it's very much play on other people's turn, which is like whatever. And I took out all the black. Anything to touch black, threw it out.
Yeah.
Kept all the blue fairies, threw Octavia in the command zone, maybe a few more lands, and then like just cantrips. Maybe a couple counter spells, but it's mostly going to be a lot of just drawing, casting fairies, and then making my commander butt cheap so that everything turns into an 8/8 when I draw spells.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty fair mono blue strategy, because it's kind of like big idiots mixed with evasion. You need instants and sorceries to fuel that deck, as well as tiny flyers, or any flyers really, but. You're going to want that 1/1 to turn into an 8/8, right? But it's just like that's what I would consider a more fair strategy than Urza.
We'll talk about this after, but I just had a realization that I can finally play one of my favorite cards in this next deck that I'm going to build. So yeah, blue is great.
Still one of my favorites.
Blue is also and at the end, blue is a very rewarding color to play, because if you're smart, you win games, right? So blue, you could almost tie an aspect of like, haha, you don't see it, but I'm pushing up my glasses. Like, I'm so freaking smart, you couldn't handle me. That's the playing mono blue is like, I am big brain.
Yeah, and that's why everybody kind of looks at you like,
like you're an asshole.
Yeah, you're very smug about it. You know you know your plays. You know what you're gonna be doing to everybody. And everybody else is just sitting there.
I'm so freaking smart.
This is why we should do videos for our podcast.
Blue is I'm gonna end it there. I don't need to say anything else on blue. Nathan, do you have anything else to add?
No, not really. Blue's a great color.
All right. Don't forget, wherever you are, always remember, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Don't forget, try everything.